Greetings. Welcome to my weekend market recap, 13th May 2023. I am Sagar Nandi, retired IT professional swing trading stocks using the Q systems and techniques that I developed. You may contact me using my email ID info@superiorprofit.co. I regularly share live market and stock analysis on my website superiorprofit.co, Twitter handle superiorprofit, and YouTube channel Trading Profitably. All these are open to the public and you are most welcome to make use of them. In my trading, I like to take truly higher probability trades. What I mean by truly higher probability trade is that trades where the technical strength for buying is aligned with the strength of the market, sector, industry, fundamental, and even seasonality if you wanted to align that. That gives a truly high probability trade in my view, and it is easy to find those trades using Q systems. Now in today's session I will look into the technical charts and show using the upcoming new release of Q Finder how you can not only find trade setups but trade setups conforming to some of the very popular, well-known and proven technical chart patterns. So technical setups with unambiguous checklists, and on top of that you can also find particular chart patterns. All done using real-time scans. I will delve into more detail on that in the coming minutes. Disclaimer first, this demonstration is for educational purposes only. I am not an investment advisor. It is not a trade recommendation. Trading involves risk. You and only you are solely responsible for the outcome of your trades. Options trading can be risky. You may refer to the characteristics and risks of standardized options document from OCC to decide if options trading is suitable for you. I use only Q systems for my trading decisions. All the Q components run on Metastock platform and the technical analysis component runs on TradeStation as well. That was the last slide. Let's now look at the global markets. I will cover the global markets in shorter time today so that I can spend a bit of my time looking at the chart patterns and how to identify them using Q Finder. Australia's all ordinary inside a range, right in the middle of the range, sideways market and no preferred trading direction. Japan's Topix index bullish in weekly, bullish in daily, above upper boundary, uptrending but extended, would not like to buy. China's CSI 300 index bearish in weekly, bearish in daily. This day we had a bearish flow. That was the day to look for short setup in underlying weak fundamental stocks. Now it is already at the lower boundary, downtrending, but I will not like to short now. I would have shorted 2 days ago on Wednesday itself. India's Nifty 50 index India market used to be the strongest of the global markets, in fact, stronger than the USA markets also, and that is true now again. Daily daily is an uptrend on the right hand side, weekly is going up, not very far from the previous high. Doesn't look like a market in a downtrend. Very strong, however, it is also above the upper boundary. Bullish, but I'm not going to buy now. It's a bit late to buy for me. And lastly, UK's FTSE index. Inside a range, you could say the lower end of the range is also defined by the white direction line. Indecisive for last several days, indecisive shape candle in weekly. Range bound in the middle of the range, indecisive candles. I'll stand aside. There is no clear picture from the global markets except one thing, that they are not giving a low risk buy setup. Some of them are in an uptrend, clear uptrend, Japanese market, Indian market, but they're extended. And some of the markets are sideways and Chinese market is in a downtrend, mixed picture. What about the USA market? Before looking at the USA market, let's have a look at US dollar using the dollar index DXY. Now, if it was a stock chart, I think many of us, if not most of us, would like to buy it. Weekly had a cluster of bullish indecisions at the bottom, then a bull release. Price went up from there, retested that level, displayed another bullish indecision, and this week it broke above the trendline resistance with a bullish flow and with a bull release. That is a beautiful weekly chart pattern that is telling us to buy. In daily, we had a series of bullish headwinds around the same price level. Then price stopped going down. Instead, it created a trendline support, and Thursday and Friday price went up from there. Here we can see price approach jump thrust low at price extreme low, and from there price is starting to go up. On Thursday, it gave a very low risk narrow stop. Stop would be just below the trend line support. A trend following long trade setup. That was the point to buy. If it was a stock, I would have bought. I don't trade forex. Now, therein lies the concern, yet another concern about the USA stock market. If dollar is going to go up, that may negatively affect the stock market. Having said that, let's look at the market ETFs for the external market view. So far I was using Q Global on Metastock. For the market ETFs, let me switch to Q Elite running on TradeStation. SPY 4 weeks of indecisive shape candles. 2 weeks out of those 4 weeks had bullish backdrop, and the immediate last 2 weeks have neutral backdrop. They are indecisive. In the daily, very indecisive candles for 4 days in a row, very indecisive candles. And that is happening in a narrow price range in daily inside a triangle pattern. That is a chart pattern that is telling us not to do anything now, wait for it to either break to the upside or to the downside, and then take either long or short trade respectively. SPY very indecisive, and you may note that both weekly daily are in yellow color. QQQ weekly and daily both are in yellow color. However, this is not inside a triangle in daily. This is going up, has only trend line support, no trend line resistance. It's uptrending. But as of Friday, as of the week, we have indecisive color, indecisive shape candle. So it is uptrending, but right now there is no buy setup. And of course, it is uptrending. There is no short setup as well. What will be concerning is to see that QQQ is breaking below these two trend line supports. That will be concerning because this is the strongest of the market ETFs. For both SPY and QQQ, weekly and daily both are in yellow neutral color. And if we look at DIA, that has changed. Both weekly and daily are in bearish color. However, daily inside a triangle very close to the triangle's support, weekly is also inside a triangle some distance away from the triangle support. What will be concerning, that is to see this support is breaking, and then the next support, if that breaks, it will be even more concerning because after that the next trend line support is far away. Right now, because it is near support, I am not going to short, but if the support is broken, I may look for short setups in industrial stocks. And lastly, IWM, small cap ETF. Like DIA, here also weekly and daily both are bearish in color. Once again, daily is inside a triangle. The triangle support is some distance away. Weekly has a trend line support but some distance away. So IWM is the weakest of the market ETFs, but that is also inside a triangle. I am not too excited to short it also, and of course I am not going to buy it. That shows a very indecisive picture in terms of external view, market ETF view. Not bullish at all because two of the market ETFs are in neutral color in weekly daily and two are in bearish color. So if anything, they are more bearish than bullish. Now, if you remember my previous market recaps, I think for 3 or 4 weeks in a row, I was not bullish, I was not buying. Then I started buying. I shared a number of trades in that time, and most of those trades made a profit. And on Wednesday this week, I shared a tweet. Let me show you the tweet. If you are following me on Twitter, you might have noticed that all my tweets I share using the live market. This is a tweet I shared on Wednesday afternoon around 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I tweeted that the market opened higher and then reversed sharply, Q charts have multiple weakness signals. It may be time to book or protect profit in long positions, and I did the same. So on Wednesday itself, I either booked profit in my existing long positions or applied trailing stop so that if they were hit, I would exit with a profit. Remember, I shared it on Wednesday. Now let's look at the sector industry stock advanced decline breadth picture. Sector industry stock advanced decline picture. 1 month period is now bearish. That's long term view. 10-day period bearish. 5-day period is bearish. Now if you see this 5-day period, it is clearly bearish, not indecisive. And that is the value of looking at the internals, what is really happening inside the market. If we look at the external views, we have a mixed picture when we looked at the ETFs, but this internal view is clearly showing that 5-day performance is bearish, market is selling off. Today is also bearish, Thursday, Friday, and Friday was also bearish. And if you followed the tweet I shared on Wednesday, I think you would exit the long positions or at least apply trailing stop on long positions that had a profit at the perfect time. And I could make that decision based on multiple real-time, 100% real-time breadth signals in Q systems. One was using the sector industry stock breadth, and the other one was using real-time market breadth for the Nasdaq and NYSE using the ticks, but more than that using advanced decline up down volume for Nasdaq NYSE, and also looking at the 4 major indexes: Russell 2000, Dow Jones Industrials, Nasdaq 100, and S&P 500, again looking at the advanced decline and up down volume internal breadth in real time. That alerted me that something was not going as expected, and I could perfectly time my exits. Some of the stocks continued to go up. That is why it was useful not to exit full position but to exit at least partial position and apply trailing stop. Here is one stock that I shared earlier, PAGS. I think I shared it in the last market recap also, showing exactly why and how I bought on this day. That was a flow trend following long setup on this stock, and that was the time when the bucket analysis was showing that market was overbought. So when the market was oversold that time. When market was oversold, I looked for strong fundamental stocks that were giving proper buy setups, proper meaning low risk buy setups, and PAGS, PAGS was the ticker. That was one of them. I bought it, put stop just below the recent low. That was not hit. When it hit 20% profit by this day, I exited partial position, and see how I managed the remaining position. On Wednesday, I alerted myself and others through tweets that something was not right in the market. However, this stock continued to go up. On Friday, it hit the white direction line and displayed a bearish headwind as well as a bearish indecision signal, and I noticed that it hit jump thrust high. Could it still go up? Yes, but it already had a very large profit. It was at jump thrust high with several weakness signals at a major resistance direction level. So I decided to exit my remaining position as well. And I was keeping all the pictures in mind, not only this charts picture, I was also keeping the Q edge sector industry stock advance decline in mind. I was also keeping the dollar index chart in mind. Now it was also possible to hold on to the remaining position using trailing stop. Therein lies the individuality of the trader. Some people might continue to hold with trailing stop, some people might exit. In this case, I exited full position in PAGS. This stock, as you can see, did very well in spite of the weakness of the market. Now, sector industry stock advance decline breadth was weak and it was weakening throughout the week. Weakening throughout the week. But has it become oversold? That we will know if we see the percentage of stocks in the lowest bucket, that is percentage of stocks below lower Bollinger Band, that hits about 30% level. But it is far away from there. It is only at 4.9% level. It's not oversold at all. So market weakened but not oversold. That may be the time to start shorting. However, the external views did not give us any reason to short yet. What about the market internal view from Q Global Market Breadth? Q Global Market Breadth, a single chart internal health check of the market, is also very indecisive. If you see the last 5 days, it did not go anywhere. That shows the indecision in the market. There is no overbought or oversold signal in this chart also. The percentage of stocks above 50-day moving average is right at the neutral level, 50% level, slightly below that. 3-month new high low is near the neutral level but slightly below that. So if anything, they are slightly more bearish than bullish. The same conclusion that we reached from the external ETF studies also. Now, one thing interesting is here growth versus value tilted up. And if you notice the stocks that I tweeted in real time before knowing the results, and if I remember correctly, most, if not all, probably all of the stocks that I bought and I shared, they were not value stocks. They were more growth stocks rather. And see how I selected the stocks perfectly aligned with the growth versus value plot in the market breadth total view. That is how I aligned another dimension of the market with my trades favor. That's why my trade still did quite well, though the market was largely indecisive. And IWM was the weakest. We saw that. We can see internally also small cap versus large cap is continuing to go down. So small cap is not doing well. Growth started to do well, but not all growth stocks. The stocks that I selected did pretty well overall. They hit the profit target before hitting the stop, most of them. You may go back and have a look at the ideas I shared on my website or Twitter. All the ideas are there. Now, if we look at the mega caps, this is the custom index in Q Global, mega cap tech index, and that is uptrending. And if you remember the chart of QQQ, this is very similar to QQQ. No surprise there because QQQ is highly influenced by the mega caps. It is a market cap weighted index and very large mega caps are there. That's why this chart is looking very similar to QQQ. In case of QQQ, I mentioned it will be concerning to see that breaking below trend line supports, and that will probably coincide with the mega cap custom index also breaking below one after another these three trend line supports. However, there are three trend line supports one after another at nearby, not but not at the same level. So it may not be easy. It's not easy usually to break through all the three trend line supports at the same time. Now that does not help us much unless if we are just trading mega caps, and mega caps are also not giving any buy signal now. They are not giving short signals also, but QQQ may be held up by the mega caps in the coming week also. It is unlikely but possible, but unlikely that all these three supports will be broken rapidly. That is no reason to buy, of course. Mega cap is the strongest corner of the market, and that is why QQQ is holding up. Now, what about technical breadth? And you will see I am using a beta version, not yet released version of QFinder with some very interesting, useful changes. Let's look at Finder. I will not specifically go through all the changes, but you may notice them. If you are already using Q systems, you would probably notice them. Let's look at the weekly picture. Finder weekly, and now I am plotting only, I am seeing only trade setups. Some trade setups that show strength, gap and breakout. These two trade setups don't necessarily indicate the direction of the setup or direction of the stock. A breakout can happen in a downtrend, in a sideways market, as well as in an uptrend. Gap can also happen in a down moving stock, sideways stock, or uptrending stock. So these two setups show strength, and next two setups, flow and pullback, they happen only in an uptrend. So they are trend continuation setups, and the last three setups, headwind, box and bounce, they happen only in a downtrend. So they are reversal setups. And the other graphs show different perspectives of the data. If we see all the setups, and now I am not talking about signals, they are proper trade setups only. 76% bearish strength, 76% bearish trend continuation, also 76% bearish reversal, 73% bearish. So it is bearish for the week, as you would expect probably, because the sector industry stock breadth was also weak for the whole week. And daily interval, Friday's picture, all setups still bearish, strength bearish, trend continuation, even reversal, they are remaining bearish. If we see the distribution of stocks between three green dots and three red dots being momentum dots that are bearish, green dots being momentum dots that are bullish, they are available in the momentum chart, that is also bearish overall. If we see jump thrust high versus low, none of them are significantly high. So we are not expecting any reversal from that angle. None of them are at 10% or higher. And the percentage of stocks showing either red candle high, that is bearish at high level, or green candle low, bullish at low level. They are also not significant, much below 10%. I have observed 10% to be significant threshold. That's why I'm starting to see them in a graphical form. If they hit 10% or higher, what I mean by any of these two are hitting 10% or higher, that is too extended to the bearish side, and if any of these two are hitting 10% or higher, that is too extended to the upper side, or rather bullish. Of course, green candle low comes at the bottom, whereas jump thrust high happens at the top. So what I mean is green color is always bullish in Q systems. So 10% is the threshold that I note of, but there is nothing to read from there. Exactly what we saw from bucket analysis. There was nothing to read from bucket analysis about overbought, oversold level. In fact, from market breadth also, I am recapitulating that even from breadth chart, total view, neither the percentage of stocks above 50-day moving average nor the 3-month high low, new high low, none of them are telling us that the market is overbought or oversold. However, the market is weak and weakening, so we may prefer to take short trades than long trades. At minimum, may avoid buying for the time being. Remember the dollar chart. Now, having said that, this was earnings season. Some stocks are still to declare their earnings results, and that may move some stocks higher. I traded several of them as I shared on Twitter, and they did quite well. If I look at the market from all these angles, nothing is telling me to buy. Now let's look at some stocks that are still giving a possible buy setup. And then if I think I'll still have some time, I look at the new Finder functionality where you can combine trade setups with patterns. Why not I explain the patterns first. Let's come to a blank screen and I use my drawing tool. One of the chart patterns that are favorite of many traders, many well-known traders, including myself, is a stock that is inside a narrow range, which can be said to be inside a squeeze. And then it breaks up from the squeeze or breaks down from the squeeze with enough participation. Now I'm using the term participation in a loose way. It may mean volume, it may mean big move, it may mean both of them or a few other aspects also. So if it breaks out of the squeeze with enough participation, somewhat fuzzy logic, then we may prefer to buy that pattern. I will still like to have a Q-trade setup. Q-trade setups are very effective, they are proven. So what kind of setup I may expect? I may expect a breakout setup. It can be also a gap setup, breakout with a gap. It could also be a pullback setup. If the yellow direction line is somewhere here, that's not yellow. If the yellow direction line is somewhere here and price was steadying at the yellow direction line and going up from there, it could also be a pullback buy setup. So there are different trade setups possible. Even it can be a flow trend following long setup if the stock was already in an uptrend. So different trade setups are possible in Q systems and those can come from a squeeze. So setup is different. Those are flow, breakout, pullback, etc. And then the scenario or pattern is that it was inside a squeeze and breaking out. Now, you know that I have explained several squeeze breakout setups during my webinars, market recaps, but now I can also identify them as a pattern on Finder. But that was not the only pattern. Let me first explain the other patterns. I have explained that if a cluster of bullish indecisions come after a stock has dropped significantly, then those indecisions may lead price to go up. And those situations or patterns are also very useful. Again, the trade setup is different. Trade setup in this case might be a headwind trade setup because a stock was coming down, then it displayed, in fact, it displayed bullish indecisions, and then we had a headwind signal. Then it could be a headwind long setup. It could also be a bounce long setup if price came to a trend line support and went up. It could also be a box long setup if after displaying the bullish indecisions when it was at watermark support, price went up. So once again, we can have different trade setups. It can be bounce, it can be headwind, it can be box that come after bullish indecisions. So the pattern is number of bullish indecisions. In this case, I'm discussing long trades, bullish indecisions, and then a trade setup. So the pattern is a cluster of indecision signals. That is the second pattern. The third pattern is fan out. It's also a well-known pattern, and I described it in a bit more detail, I think, in the last but one market recap in the context of Q systems. Q systems has 5 direction lines. They sometimes converge together, probably not all of them, but at least 3 of them, and then start to diverge. That pattern is called fan out, and that is a pattern, and at the point of fan out we may again have different trade setups. We may have a gap trade setup, we may have a trend following flow buy setup, we may have a pullback setup. So setups are different. A proper Q trade setup can happen along with a fan out pattern. So fan out is the third pattern. And the fourth pattern is also something I have discussed many times. Very lucrative buy pattern is when a stock has dropped a lot and we have an indication of extreme low price from price extreme low. Price extreme low shows up as the band indicator with series of reddish dots, and if it is at price extreme low, beautiful painting by the way, isn't it? When a stock is at price extreme low and it starts to go up, then again we may have a pattern and a setup. Because it is at price extreme low, it may be a headwind buy setup, it may also be a box setup. If it is at watermark support level, it can be a bounce setup if it was at trend line support at the same time. So again, we can have different trade setups associated with a pattern. The pattern is that it is at price extreme low. So I have discussed these 4 patterns at different times: price extreme low, cluster of indecisions, fan out, and moving out of squeeze. And now in QFinder we can find those patterns as well. If I go to the bullish signals, bullish tab, this is the latest data. we have the trade setups: bounce, box, headwind, pullback, flow, breakout, and gap. 7 possible trade setups, and now we have also 4 possible patterns: price extreme, indecision, move from squeeze, squeeze move, and fan out. And using the different smart buttons, I may see the stocks with maximum number of setups. I could also see stocks giving some trade setup with maximum number of patterns. So if I want to search by pattern, I can see, for example, there are many stocks with some Q trade setup with also a number of patterns. So the top one, RRC, what patterns are there? One is, it is at price extreme low, a lucrative buying position. It is moving from a squeeze, and it is also showing a fan out pattern. So 3 patterns and 1 trade setup breakout. If I see the next stock, EQT, it has 3 patterns. What are the patterns? Again at price extreme low, again a move from squeeze and a fan out, again a breakout trade setup. Let's look at one more stock, First Solar, FSLR. It has 2 trade setups, possible trade setups. One is gap, one is flow trend following setup, and it has 2 patterns. What are the patterns? Moving from squeeze with fan out. Now you could just trade the setups, but when you have many trade setups, you could choose the one with some pattern as well. Another way traders may use it is that some traders are very fond of buying at extreme low. I am one of them. Some are also very fond of buying moves from a squeeze. I am also one of them. So if you have special affinity to one pattern than the other, you may flag for that. So let me refresh the data. Suppose I am only interested in buying stocks that are moving out of a squeeze. I could flag for them and then see which one of them have a trade setup. I can see I am left with 10 stocks. They are all moving from a squeeze. Some of them have fan out patterns. Some of them also have price extreme low pattern. But all of them have one or more trade setups. And again, you see from that technique, that workflow, First Solar comes here, SJR, BECN, etc. Now we can look at the chart to identify the proper low risk buy point, whether it is there or not. And I showed that on the bullish side, if I went to the bearish daily tab, then I could again look for squeeze moves that are bearish, and these stocks now are moving from a squeeze. Some are showing fan out, some is at price extreme high, that is a pattern for short trade. Price extreme high is lucrative, and all these also have one or more short trade setup. Now I looked at some possible buy points, so at the market level I am not very keen to buy, but to demonstrate this technique, let's look at these two stocks, BECN and NTNX. I could use either Q Elite on TradeStation or Q Global on MetaStock for the technical analysis, but there are certain scans like Q Finder, the technical breadth visual identification system, that is only available. Q Finder is available only as part of Q Global. Now, this is one stock of interest I wanted to show you, and I will highlight several of the patterns if they are available. I'm looking at it using the 3 chart template, the weekly, daily, and the additional momentum signals. How I use the momentum signal is just to count the number of green colors. And if it is anything more than 3, I'm happy. So in this case, let's start with the momentum chart. But momentum chart does not give me a trade setup. Trade setup comes from Q charts. But let's look at the momentum chart first. Bongo green. In fact, when I'm trading, I'm not interested even looking at the name of the color. Just see green color, green color, green color. And if I have to, I remember the names, Mobo Breakout, Kahuna, and it's from a squeeze. So remember, I talked about the patterns moving from a squeeze with a Mobo Breakout Kahuna with very high volume with big move up to, that looks like squeeze move. It's very loose terminology. It's just defined as moving from squeeze with some participation. Participation can mean many things. So that pattern is coming here. And if you see the direction lines, we have white direction line here, and all the other 4 direction lines were crossed by Friday's candle. So we have a fan out pattern as well. So we have 2 of the 4 patterns. And now if I look at the proper trade setup, whether that is there or not, weekly backdrop is bullish, shape is bullish, daily flow is bullish, shape is bullish. On top of that, it has trend line support. It clearly has a trade setup. I can actually read it from the ribbon. It has a flow trend following long setup. And if you wanted to see the commentary, a very useful feature of Q Global, now you can see that it not only has a flow setup, that is trend following setup, also a pullback setup, also a trend following, but a different kind of buy setup. So if I close it, yes, it came to the white direction line and went above that. So sorry, not white, yellow direction line went above that while being in an uptrend. So we have 2 possible trade setups, flow and pullback, both trend following setups, and 2 patterns as well, breaking out from squeeze, squeeze move with fan out. That's a stock I'd like to buy. Now I didn't look at its fundamental. I'll not like to do that. Let me go through at least one more stock and explain how, in fact, no. I would like to show you one more thing, how to look it up from Finder. So let's look at its fundamentals also. BECN, Beacon Roofing. It seems the name is Beacon Roofing. BECN is the ticker. Let's give it a few seconds. Well, the fundamentals are good enough for me to buy. And see how unambiguously all aspects of Q systems come together. Undervalued stock that allows us to buy, and funds are accumulating, insiders are buying. About 50% stocks went up, about 50% stocks went down on Friday. That is expected. The market is not very strong, but in itself the stock is very strong in terms of fundamentals. And if I want to check the relative score of the industry, trading companies and distributors, well, the relative score of the industry is also quite strong over both 5 days, 2 days, and even 1 day. And for all those 3 periods, it is in fact one of the top 20% of industries, and I see here even on Friday the industry actually went up. So now we have found a 360 degrees buy setup, buying candidate. Top 20% of industries, strong fundamentals in terms of valuation, funds accumulation, and two trade setups, pullback and flow, both trend following, as well as two patterns moving from squeeze and fan out. Beautiful, isn't it? Now, if I carried out the fundamental analysis first, I could look up the finder using a single click, and that would have shown me even before I opened the chart that yes, it has a pullback buy setup, it has a flow buy setup, and it has those two patterns I mentioned, squeeze move and fan out, and then I could open the chart. If I wanted to know the momentum dots, I could do another click and I could see it has three momentum dots, that is Bongo, Mobo breakout, Kahuna, and is coming out of a squeeze. So all these are available in a color coded format, and now you can also look for patterns. Now I have one more stock to share with you. See how this pattern can be combined with the trade setups. Finally, the trade setups are unambiguous. If you notice, the patterns are not so crisp. I mentioned coming out of squeeze can mean many things. I said participation, that there is some fuzzy logic in that. But the trade setups are associated with unambiguous checklists. They are proven. So I would like to have a trade with a proper trade setup, but if that has a pattern that I like squeeze move, I am happy with that. The next stock, probably the last one of today, because the market level view is indecisive, I don't want to look at many stocks. But let's look at this second stock, NTNX, Nutanix, and if you are trading for a while, this was also one of the well-known growth stocks. You see, the stocks I traded recently and shared, and even the ones I am sharing today, they are more growth than value. That's a nice kind of market to have, provided the market turns bullish. NTNX, and immediately I can see there is enough reason to buy here also. It has high earnings growth and accelerating earnings growth. Valuation is medium, that's fine. We can buy either based on valuation or growth, in this case growth, and it has a short squeeze potential. Application software industry, again mixed picture. Friday was not very bullish, but still it is mixed, about 50-50 between stocks, peer stocks going up and down. If I look at the relative scorecard of the industry, application software, that is weakening in fact. So this is not something I would like to buy. Between NTNX and the last stock, I would prefer the last one, because there the industry was strong relatively and it was also up on Friday, whereas application software as an industry is down on Friday. But in any case, let's look at the technical chart. I want to show you one thing. NTNX is also having a nice chart pattern and trade setup. Let's look at the setup. Weekly, very beautifully breaking out from trendline resistance after displaying a bullish indecision. Earlier it had a bull release, it had a watermark. We have a false downside breakout at that watermark. This week's candle is very bullish with bullish flow. We have a bull release as well. In the daily, we can see the same false downside breakout. The watermark support held. On Friday, we have a bullish flow, and the flow setup is not only trend following, in some cases it may anticipate. The flow logic is quite complex. It can anticipate when it's going to start a new uptrend, and it flags a flow setup in that case also. So we have that, and we also have a breakout trade setup. We had a big move up 3. I can call it a mother of all momentum signals. Big move up 3 and a squeeze release. We have multiple bullish momentums here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots. 5 dots, and if you combine the big move up 3, then actually there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 green dots. That's a lot of green dots. Now let's look at NTNX finder result. Single click. Well, now I have seen the pattern. It has a fan out pattern with 3 possible trade setups. See, sometimes when we are reading the chart, we may miss something, and we can refer to finder to make sure we are reading everything. And it's even better now. Now I see I already read flow, I already read breakout from the chart, but I see it also has a proper gap buy setup, and it has a pattern also, fan out. If I wanted to check the momentum signals, it has 6 of them: Bongo, Mobo, Kahuna, Pocket Pivot, BGU, and Big Move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have to check why it is showing 6. 6, yes. What I'm doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where is 7? 6 is calculating correctly. Okay. So coming back to the chart again, here we have one pattern, fan out pattern with 3 trade setups. One is gap, one is breakout, one is flow, with many bullish momentum signals, and actually coming out of a squeeze. The squeeze happened some days ago. So there are buy setups with low risks in this market also. But I am not encouraging buying, because for me the market is always important, and market level is not very bullish. That may change next week, and these stocks may be added to a watch list. If the market starts to go up next week, I'll be happy to buy some of these stocks. And now Q Finder makes it even easier to look for setups that are associated with one of your favorite patterns, either at extreme low lucrative swing trade as well as long-term buying position after a cluster of indecision, move from a squeeze or fan out, or a combination of them. I am still fine-tuning this new finder, and of course that has to be associated with the Q Global scan. Once they are properly fine-tuned and tested, I'll release it. I'll continue to use them in the meantime in my market recaps to show you what is going to be coming soon, going to be released too. I think you will love it even more, especially those of you who were fond of at least one or more of those 4 patterns. I know most of you, if not all of you, are fond of at least one or more of those patterns, so you will like them. Let's end today's session here. We are at 1 hour point. Thanks a lot for joining. I look forward to seeing you in my next session. That will be next weekend. And you can see I take the sessions at different times of the weekend. I'll announce the date time on Twitter as usual. Have a great weekend, and as these live examples show, I keep on repeating, there is absolutely no reason not to do that. Trade profitably in whatever market we are. And sometimes we stand aside, but when we trade, I think with a 360 degrees analysis approach, and now even with patterns in Finder, there is no reason not to trade profitably. Thank you.